Thank you for joining us here today. We have Dr. James Hamblin, senior editor and writer at The Atlantic, and he also hosts a video series called If Our Bodies Could Talk. Thank you for joining us here in Chapel Hill.
I'm thrilled to be back in North Carolina.
You know, with your knowledge in medicine, you are able to sift through what people need clarification on. What exactly is your process that you go through when you're choosing what topic to report on next?
I try to marry what is an interesting way into a bigger idea, which is sort of what The Atlantic's long-time goal has been. We're an ideas-driven magazine. So that allows you to get at a bigger social issue, get at a bigger topic about how people think about their health, about overall well-being, about problems with the healthcare system, through something that is engaging and will interest people. So something like, I just wrote this story about, it was a case study in the New England Journal of Medicine about somebody who had kidney failure from drinking too much tea. So that's super interesting, right?
Yeah, I did read that article.
Yeah, so hopefully you can cone out, it's not just worth covering really one person and their story, but what does that tell you about this idea that we have where we're constantly into trying to eliminate things from our diet and just go on diets of purely these three things and
juice cleanses,
for
example.
And think about things, we like to think about things in as this good or bad dichotomy. I mean, that's what people ask me all the time, is basically, is this good for me or not? You know?
And it's not just black and white.
No, there's all this nuance, and so hopefully you can come out to something that is actually challenging someone's pre-existing perspective, that even something like tea or spinach or something we think is great can be bad in a very rare case, but it's basically a parable. But I like to, I mean, that's the sort of things I like to think about. What would I want to read? What is the user experience when they're consuming media today, you know, largely social media, and so you have to make things that people see themselves in a little bit, for better or worse, that make them kind of want to share it, that they think it's so good and interesting that they want to send it to someone else, is basically the burden that is now on all journalists, as opposed to, here's a magazine, we're putting it in your lap.
Read it.
Read it. And if you like it, good. Now it has to be so good that you read it and you cut it out and you mail it to your friend because this was such a good article, which didn't have to be that way before.
So for a consumer, how would we sift through studies that say something is good versus something is bad? For example, I know you did a video on wine and whether it's healthy. And how do you kind of present that balance to your consumers?
I was wearing this same shirt when I did that video.
Really?
Yeah, I need more shirts. You've seen that video. Yeah, so I like to think about, so there are different cognitive modes in which people consume health media. Different people have different relationships to the medical establishment, culturally, and in their own perspectives on the world. Some people want to be told by a medical authority that something is good and safe and they should do it, or something is bad and they should not. And there are probably just as many people out there who want to know all of the risks and benefits and weigh everything in the context of everything and take an expert's advice as just one expert's advice. So it's hard sometimes because you don't know your audience. And you know that when I write about somebody who got renal failure from drinking too much tea, there are going to be people who, no matter how much I can say, this does not mean tea is bad, this does not mean tea is bad, are going to be like, well, if that happened to one person, I should stop drinking tea. And so it's tough. It's tough, especially if you have a national outlet like we do. You have to, it's becoming harder and harder to know your audience. Things end up on mommy blogs and on Reddit and on all healthcare forums, and you have to be thinking about all possible concerns you might be raising, all possible fear that you might be cultivating in people, all possible perspectives you might not be, what sort of privileges do I have that I am presuming of my reader. So it makes you just constantly thinking about where are the holes in this story and how could I make it better and stronger and responsible and still entertaining. So
sounds like a tough job.
yeah, and that's part of thinking about how you choose stories. You choose stories that lend themselves to that sort of thing.
I wanted to talk about your latest video that was released on cryotherapy. So I wondered how you went about, or did you know that you were going to take that angle going into that interview, and how you went about not lending the interviewee to know that you were going to take an angle that was against her company.
Did you think that it was?
It seemed like it seemed sort of neutral towards that side in the interview, but the headline definitely said it's not a good idea to immerse yourself in, what was it, negative 264 degrees?
Yeah, it was really cold.
I can
You know,
imagine.
I'd read some trend pieces, and we often conceive of ideas quickly and then decide we're going to execute them. And then, you know, as a doctor, I have this certain, every journalist is bound to tell the truth and portray things accurately, but as a doctor, people especially, I think, look to me as, oh, if he's doing it, it must be something reasonable, right? Why would I even try something that was that unreasonable? Well, because it's something people are doing. It's interesting. Like, I honestly was interested to see what it was like because people are talking about it, and I'd like to tell people what it's about. They were nice to have me, you know, just take the time with me. I don't want to be disrespectful or condemning. And I really think that they believe, the proprietors of that place believe in what they're doing. They've had family who've used it and said they feel better. So you don't want to be, I'm not really speaking truth to power. They are not this huge institution. They are one little place in New York.
Right.
But I also don't want to misinform people and have them think, oh, I should go, it's $700 a month.
That's incredible.
And especially when you were in, you know, when people are very vulnerable and amenable to being told that things will help them when they are in dire straits, right? You get diagnosed with some terminal illness. Someone says they have something that can help you. Or even you read something that implies that maybe it could help you, or a loved one. Reason kind of goes out the window for some people. Yeah. It's hard to, you know, I haven't been in that situation personally. So anyway, I don't want to be party to, like, misleading someone in that way.
What would your advice be to students in college who are just about to start their lives?
Oh. Do what you want to do. Figure out what you want to do. And then figure out how to get there. I mean, try to think long term. What do I want to do with my life? What will make me happy? Not like immediately, what do I...
Single zone.
Yeah. And don't feel like you have to do what other people want you to do. I think a lot of people are just kind of get into medical school or law school or a graduate program or consulting or banking job just because they feel like they're not sure what else to do. You know, take some time. If you're not sure, those are big steps. And I think that was part of it for me. I wanted to be a doctor, but I don't think I had just coming straight out of undergrad was 100% certain. It just seemed like the right choice at the time. But yeah, if you can take a year and make your way and broaden your horizons after college and figure things out and know what, as close to 100% as you can before you get into an industry. I think because then once you get in, it's so, people just have this sunk cost aversion, right? Oh, I've spent 2 years in law school. I probably should spend the rest of my life as a lawyer. Because especially you've incurred a lot of debt, you put a lot of time into it. But what is 2 years? You know,
compared to the rest of your life.
Yeah, yeah. But also don't waste those 2 years and that money before you have to know, right? So be sure of it, you know, and use the time in college to explore a lot of different things, and to hopefully figure that out. And if you need to take more time,
take it.
Take more time. Go volunteer some place abroad, or take some.
That's exactly what I was planning to do.
Any sort of great, yeah, any sort of menial job that you might not do, later in life, and you can take some time to meet people and see the world. I think that's great. Before you can be a good writer, you need perspective on the world and so many different walks of it. I think it'll make you a better journalist to do literally anything outside of your sphere for a year, 5 years, or 10 years. I think I've gotten to be very preachy.